Hi, good evening. Hi, Lauren. Hello to you at home. It's 5:05, a few minutes late here on the West Coast. My name is Jay Ryan. You're tuned into the, I don't know what it's going to be tonight. Tonight it may just, boy, I don't know, what would it qualify? We're back to It's Tonight's show. This is the show we have for you tonight. We had some great guests planned. They were going to be satellite guests from the East Coast. Huge snowstorm, huge blizzard. They have no power. So, no guest. Nicole was going to be with us, of course, as she usually is. About 20 minutes before the show, I heard some loud thumping and banging, and what the heck could that be on the other side of the wall? And she was laying on the bathroom floor naked, trying to get up on the toilet to go to the bathroom. So that's what we're dealing with in MS land. It's one of those evenings. It's raining here in Los Angeles. Everybody is, whenever that happens here, it seems like the energy of the entire town shifts, and we feel that stuff. So we're here with you. Gosh, in the world of Letterman, there was a loss this week. Our producer Mike up in Canada, I'm sure, will be saying a few words about that. And we did a bunch of stuff this weekend, and we had a great night last night at the Motor Trend event for Super Turbo Story Time. Super Turbo Story Time. The name of the new show, and we'll tell you all about that. And then maybe we'll see the missus in a little bit, maybe not. I told her, don't worry about the show. I told her, do not prepare for the show. I said, just relax. So I'm not expecting her. It may just be us. And whatever you want to talk about, obviously, as well. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell for whatever this show is. And she's not here. He is here. That's the good news. And Will's here to kick it off. Too much for one guy. Nicole was just about to crawl out here, and whatever. I had to remind her that I was directing the show as well. Oh, good grief. And that's probably not the show we want either. It's probably this, I guess. Everything's new. Good evening. Welcome back, everybody. I think these mics are on. Got everything fired up right before. Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, 314-2023. Our show guest is much like the bubbles in this studio. There is a blizzard going on the East Coast. better. And on our guests, it was going to be Kat DeLorean and her husband, obviously. That was awesome, Jason. And it was also going to be the guys, Tony and crap. Now I'm drawing a blank, but the other guys who were building her car, and we were going to get into some of the nitty gritty tonight. And of course, weather. We've got weather. We've got stacks and stacks of weather. All right, that was the first little Letterman nod for the night. So with that, let's bring in our guest. I guess he will be our guest tonight. Our guest and our producer up there north of the border, up in Canada. Canada Mike, hi buddy, how you doing? Hell of a week.
Hey man, I'm doing about as good as you are, I think.
What we're excuse me. Our struggles are every day. Like what we're dealing with is it's a thing. What you're going through was sudden.
Oh yeah.
And hopefully not that often. I just want to let you know that you have full freedom to say whatever you want about the subject. I'll let you bring it up. I know we'll talk about it in some form, but I'm certain that you have some words you want to say. So
I appreciate that. You're talking about Rick Scheckman, and who is Rick Scheckman passed away on Friday, and he was a very, very good friend to me since 2020. And I mean, I've talked a little bit on the show about some of the stuff that I've been through and my family's been through. While we were at BC Children's Hospital, I kind of struck up a friendship with Rick Scheckman, and coming home with the pandemic coming up around us, that friendship deepened. And he's been sick since late summer, but it wasn't so severe that we thought that he wouldn't pull through it. So the fact is, I guess it's a week ago, Wednesday, a good friend of his came in the house and found him collapsed, and he went and he was hospitalized, and he never pulled out of it. Yeah. And so it was about a week and a half. So it was the following Friday that he succumbed to it. And it was so for many people it was shocking, and it was sudden, and it was just a very, very difficult. It was a very difficult weekend. And so thank you for letting me talk about it. I'm willing to talk about it. I did the podcast today about him. I turned the camera on, and I went 120 minutes, and I talked about him. And
so you're probably wrung out, but just for anybody who's watching this show who may not be a Letterman fan, which is probably the majority of our people, have not found us through the world of Letterman. They found us through cars and other places. Can you explain who Rick Scheckman is and why he's significant in the world of Worldwide Pants? And we heard why he's significant to you, but why would anyone else know him?
Yeah, thank you for that too, because Rick Scheckman, he worked for David Letterman basically right from the beginning of late night.
From the second month of the show, right?
Yes. 32 years he worked for Dave and company. And he came on board. At first he was a consultant, because Rick Scheckman is, I don't know. Here's where the world has a loss here. You know, when you find an expert on a subject matter that is so complete and he's a master, and he is that one of the world's foremost knowledge databases between his temples of old school movies and Hollywood, and not just that, but he actually collected a lot of these old movies and built up such a massive collection, and started a company finding footage for people. And with the Letterman folks, they brought him on early as a consultant, and they found they were using him so often that it actually was cheaper for them to put him on full time.
Bring him in-house.
That's how he absolutely. And that's how he ended up with the Letterman gig. His title was film coordinator. And over the years, of course, his responsibilities increased to the point where, Rick was in the inner circle of the highest levels of the production. in basically all areas, and had a say. It was responsible for hiring people who spent their entire career working for Worldwide Pants, and just a plethora of other things. Never pushed for a producer credit or an executive producer credit. Never pushed. His words to me always that he was good at staying in his lane. But whenever you saw footage of Dave, asking for give me a footage of a monkey washing a kitty cat, Rick brought that up. They were going through Charles Carroll's colon, and it was the old grainy footage of people exploring through a cave. That was Rick who brought that footage in. But much more
became known as
that.
Shecky footage, as I recall.
Yeah, that's right. To the point where, and I mean, Rick Scheckman, the nickname Shecky, after a year or two, showed up because he would start making on-screen appearances. They had him for an inexplicable reason, other than made Dave laugh. They dressed him up as Elvis. He really didn't look at all like Elvis, but they dressed him up as Elvis, and he would perform in sketches with Chris Elliott and all sorts of appearances. All throughout the years. There was a time where they dressed him up later on in Late Show. They dressed him up as Shrek for no reason at all, except Dave liked the idea of Shrecky. I don't even know if that made air. They put him in the Shrek costume, so anyways, he made dozens and dozens of appearances, appeared on lots of staff top 10s, including the very last staff top 10 where he was number 2, and he blew Dave a kiss famously. There's lots of Shecky memories there.
I think of the fact that he was well known enough that the talent often knew, the regular talent who was within the family, the Late Show family, knew who he was, because I can think of people like Michael Keaton, who would, I don't even remember when and why, but I have a freaking memory of him being on a Letterman show saying Shecky, like David said Shecky, and then whatever the heck. I remember something with Tom Hanks one as well. It was interesting how he became known as, Dave never called it a whack pack, but I mean, if he had one, he would have been part of the staff whack pack for sure. They would pick somebody and then they would just kind of noodle on them. They would twist especially somebody who didn't necessarily want to do it. I guess it was only people who didn't want to do it, because anybody who wanted to do it is not really that fun to watch.
That's the thing about Rick. Unbelievably shy. And I can say I'm so grateful that over the last 3 years I got to know him really well, because radio broadcaster Alex Bennett, who was one of Shecky's best friends, he put it very, very beautifully. Shecky had lots of orbits. He had lots of things that he was. He's like
you bury the lead a lot. You're on a show with the three of them, with Alex Bennett and Shecky, right? Yeah. Weekly. So that's how you're in the. This is actual firsthand knowledge, the stuff you're talking about.
Shecky and I became friends, and as we became friends, and he realized where my passions lay, he invited me to be on this weekly show that he's been a part of with Alex, who even in his 80s is still broadcasting all the time. This is, a lot of people don't know who Alex Bennett is. Alex Bennett paved the highway that Howard Stern drove on. Very, very influential in broadcasting.
So he's a craftsman. He's a laborer.
Well, yeah, I would certainly say that.
No, I take your point.
And no. It's Shecky had lots of orbits. So, and a bunch of his orbits happened to be ones that he and I connected on. Like, I've got a pro wrestling connection, right? Well, Shecky used to go to the Garden and see pro wrestling almost every single week back in the day. And so we bonded on that. I'm a huge comic book fan. This is the shirt I wore for his tribute episode today. Shecky loved Golden Age comics and has this legendary collection, and we would talk about these things, sports memorabilia, and then, of course, the Letterman connection. And he's also just an old New York guy, born and raised in New York, lived in the house that he grew up in Queens, all the way, to the end. And it just is such a New Yorker, loved old New York, would always post old photos of New York. This is what Times Square looked like in the 30s. This is what it looked like in the 1890s, things like that.
Were Shecky
very
and
much
Don
a New
Giller
Yorker.
close?
Well, here's the thing about Don Giller, who is the archivist when it comes to Letterman stuff. I mean, he's talked about this. He and I have been in touch a lot over the last week because he's just, I would say, just as crumbled as I am by this. He called Rick the definitive encyclopedia of Letterman knowledge, and for Don Giller to say that about somebody, that's like you think Don's got a lot of footage, and he does. Well, much of his rare stuff, came from Rick, and there's a lot of stuff that Rick had that nobody has seen, and it's just.
So, all right. So I definitely got from that Don was an appreciator of Rick's, but yes, they were close, they were friendly.
Yes, for years.
Oh, that's great. Okay,
they would
that makes
trade tapes. And I mean, every relationship has ups, downs, all that kind of stuff. And it's a weird, like, Rick was in a weird spot. Like I'll put, here's an example of it. There's a very famous, or infamous appearance of Bill Hicks on The Late Show with David Letterman. And it was early on in the run. And Bill Hicks, if you've ever seen Bill Hicks's stand up, very provocative and very good at making you think, but also very good at kind of pushing buttons. So he goes on Late Show and does this set. And at the 11th hour, the show decided it might have been, if I can borrow an old phrase, too hot for TV.
You don't need to tell the whole story. At some point, they censored the thing and they needed to put another clip on the air, right?
Sure. So they canceled that appearance.
I'm sorry. I can't spend the whole show talking about this. I do want to get to other things, but I want to give Rick his due. But I don't know if we need every single step of this.
Sorry,
so
brother.
You see, Bill Hicks was a comedian, and it.
I was just providing color. I apologize.
I know. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
I'm sorry. I think I'm sensitive too. I apologize.
All good, man. Years later, when they wanted to show the Hicks footage, it was gone. They didn't have it anymore, but Shecky had it, and that's who they went. He was the only one who had it. So there's
because years later they did end up releasing it and showing it.
They had his mom on the show. This is after he died. He died 18 months later, and the thought was anyway. So yeah, that Shecky was way more than a film coordinator.
He always struck me as like a coordinating producer. I mean, as far as if he really got the job title that he deserved, but it always seemed to me, and I didn't know him directly, just through you and other people. It always seemed to me that he was the type who didn't want the producer title. I don't think he would have wanted those meetings and that life. I think he probably was very happy doing what he did, and that's I think where he was probably best utilized. That type of brain.
I could not agree more. He was a utility player back in the background that did a whole bunch of things, and it left. He didn't care. The way he put it to me is that the reason that he had such a longevity there and built the relationships that he did was he knew how to stay in his own lane. And he didn't go running off to Dave whenever something happened. He was happy to just hand off the information to the right people and just let it go. Though he was the one who told Dave that Bill Hicks passed away. I was gonna end with that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize there was a whole.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I was gonna kind of. But so there were moments like that. But one of the reasons why he was so appreciated on the staff was he just was a utility player that was, kind to people and. The best, amazing guy.
The best, most utilized people are generally those utility people who kind of are invisible. For one, they're invisible. If they're doing their job right, you have no idea they exist. You just think everyone's witty and the writing's great and whatever else. That's one thing about Letterman versus kind of maybe other people didn't talk about it. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe he always gave credit to not just the crew, but all of the different cooks in the kitchen. He wasn't, the show wasn't good because of him. It was good because of all of the ingredients in his mind. And I always appreciated that he was so public about that. Shecky would be a main very strong ingredient in that.
Could not agree more with that. He liked his staff to get paid. He liked his staff to be part of these segments and whatnot. So they had to be part of the union, and they actually got an extra paycheck. Like he loved doing that for people. And And he got a kick out of making people who would be uncomfortable with that uncomfortable as well. And that was kind of part of the, I don't know what you want to call it, the fraternity of folks who worked there. That was just part of the culture that was created. And it was, it was quite beautiful.
I'm very sorry. I mean, I sent you a text that day when I found out, but I'm so sorry for your loss. I mean,
I appreciate it very, very much.
I know he was not only just a friend of yours; he was a real champion for the Letterman podcast, and or for you doing your podcast. And I don't know. You're not the type that'll lose momentum over this or anything, but I don't know. I'm just really sorry for your loss.
I really appreciate that. The day before I shot the first episode, or actually it was about a week before I shot the first episode, I talked about the lily pads. You're a lily pad. If you didn't exist, this podcast wouldn't exist. But Shecky was, I call him the North Star. I asked him straight up. It was a voice conversation. I said, look, it's a Godfather reference. I said, look, I need a conciliary about this. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing? And would you be my Tom Hagen? I said that to him. He said, absolutely, Mike. I'm in your corner. I will help you as much as I possibly can. And he gave me the advice he gave me along the way. He watched every episode. He gave me notes. He gave me advice, and he gave me, contact info, obviously, for some of the guests. He gave endorsements. I mean, the support he gave me for the Letterman podcast is quite literally unparalleled in a sense of who he was and what he did in his position in the show. Like he was my North Star in so many respects. But he was an even better friend. I love just talking comics with him. And I'm going to miss that very, very, very much.
Hang in there, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we had an interesting weekend. The weekend was pretty good. Pouring rain for GBBC. I think we left you on Thursday. We said we were going to do it at Haggerty Garage and Social at the Rod Emery Patrick Long location. We did. It was great. Rod Emery was there. It was super cool of him to come over from the shop and spend some time with people. It was very, very nice. Lieberman was there. Nice. It was pouring rain. So it wasn't a fancy car show, that's for sure. We were looking at the cars inside, which was cool to see a bunch of Emery, builds in various stages. And then Saturday, what was Saturday? There was something else Saturday. Oh, we did the up in Beverly Glen. Did the Beverly Glen deal there. Pouring rain there too. We joked about it a couple weeks ago that the climate had shifted in Los Angeles and that this was not a temporary situation. Like it's basically become like New England or I guess maybe the Pacific Northwest. I stand by that. What was a joke has become a hypothesis. It will soon become a theory once we've proven a few more facts here.
And for those of us who don't live in Los Angeles, I've seen it rain in Vegas before, and the infrastructure.
It's all desert. Similar.
Yeah, and the infrastructure of the streets and all that drainage and all that kind of stuff really doesn't exist like it exists in places like where I'm from or Pacific Northwest or whatever. Does it shut down the city in many respects? Like when it rains there, it can be really challenging, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say yes because everything you just said makes sense to me. But growing up in this kind of weather, we have zero issue driving in it, period.
Sure. Yeah.
But it does seem that no one else knows how to do any of it. And every time there is weather, what it says to me is not so much that the weather is the factor. It is an illumination of how terrible drivers are in general.
I feel you.
How distracted. Up there, when there's weather, you have to focus. If you're the type of person, legal or not, I'm taking that out of the equation. If you're the type of person who texts and drives or something like that, you're not doing it in that weather. You got both hands on the wheel and you're concentrating on things further in front of you and you're planning things out and you're using your strategies and your in-brain calculus. Some people drive like that all the time. All the time. Fully connected,
yeah.
Fully present in our little bubble of safety because we're aware of all the things around us. I don't even like to talk in the car. We've been together so long that we don't even talk in the car anymore. We can talk together anytime. And when we're in the car, it's kind of our relaxation, look out the window time.
And you don't listen to music either, do you?
No, we love music in the Mini because the sound system's so good, and we have ripped it out of the yellow car. Yellow car has no radio or any sound system.
Yeah.
We carry a little Bluetooth speaker that fits in the cup holder, one of those little JBL little tiny things, and we use that occasionally, and I'll just play it off my phone. But and I'm a music lover, so it's not wanting that. It's just that if your mobility is stripped from you at any point in your life, whether it's an accident, an illness, or anything, what you're looking at shifts and changes, and what you care about, what you care to look at, and what you care to give your attention to shifts and changes. And listening to K-Rock and whatever the hot new jam is not on the priority list anymore. And looking out the window at nature and life as it flies by you, getting that movement again that you used to be used to, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's what works for us. I can't say that it would be that way for everybody. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But, I've been a creative, so multitasking was never, appealing to me. I've been creative my whole life. I never really understood that whole thing. She was a professional multitasker, juggling plate spinners. Pick the Ed Sullivan Show analogy you want to, but the music was, fucking crazy pants. The level, the frequency at which she used to operate. And I just think that I think sometimes I come up with these stupid things that I'm saying because I'm looking for there to be a reason for Nicole's MS, but it's almost like life makes you slow down sometimes. And that multitasking thing to me is horribly inefficient. I guess it works in that world because she got, to a good place by being that way. But I look at her now and what she's able to do now. And how do we turn it about this? Did this turn into a woe is me thing? I'm so sorry if I spun it that way. What were we actually talking about?
It's not woe is me at all. No. I got a follow up that I actually had something that I wanted to ask you about. That's kind of linked
because
up.
I lost my train of thought completely there.
No, we started talking about multitasking, radio in the car, and driving around, and that's what it was about.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It was a bit. What happened? Did we lose Mike? We lost Mike. Maybe the snow got him. Oh,
it said room completed. I'm back.
Yeah, you left us, but you are back.
I got a message that said room completed, and I was like, "What? I've never had that before." Sorry, buddy.
Complete. I don't know how to do any of this. We're out of sorts again. Okay, so go ahead. What's your follow-up?
Oh, okay. So I'll tell you this because again, you worded it perfectly. I don't think it's a benefit of the MS. I'm going to ask something about Rick passing away this weekend. I'm going to ask about ego, and sometimes priorities need to be kind of put in check. And things, when something hard happens, your priorities come back into play the way they should be. They go back into an alignment of how you think. There you go.
That's what universe sort of realigns you.
Yes, very much. So here's the question. You know that feeling that you get when you're driving, and it's that, I don't know, the Germans, Farfennugen, they say that, but that harmony that you feel, and it's just the greatest feeling in the world where you're in touch. Maybe you are listening to music. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't. It looked like I was going to say 1 second. No, to us, that's what the 111 symbolizes.
Okay. Yes, I love that. I love it.
It's the harmony. It's
totally. I got a question about that.
Right speed, right car, right road. Some people say but it always seems to be a trifecta, like a holy trinity for some reason.
Yeah, and it is, and I would wish that feeling on anybody just so they could feel that feeling. It's so pure and beautiful and awesome. However, my question is this: can that be ego? And can that be I know people who have that feeling and then they get out of control about it.
Then we may be talking about different feelings. The thing I'm talking about, I would feel like would be I would put it akin to some sort of a spiritual ego loss.
Yep.
What I'm talking about, or what I thought you were talking about, and what I was thinking of, is more of, Porsche people kind of call it the valve float. It's like when you're just at that right speed for the road, and the car and the right RPM, and it's just kind of, you're just there in that sweet spot where you're just bending the rubber band one way or the other, and you can do no wrong, and you're sort of in this weird protected bubble of energy. And that sounds crazy, but it is crazy. It is crazy. The way I said it just sounded crazy, but like I've also felt it, so I know it exists. Can't describe it well.
I think you did a great job of describing it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'll tell you this.
So I don't think it's ego. I think it's the opposite, but that's in my
Okay.
case. I think for some people, they may mash the pedal. Ego to me is a different type of driving. Ego to me is 0 to 60. Ego to me is light to light or Fast and the Furious. Going to win. I love the drive. All of my friends love the drive. And and I think perhaps that's the difference. Is one is definitely ego driven, and that's often the big fancy expensive brand new shiny thing. Often, not always, often. And I mean, money buys all things, so it's not just that. Certainly, I know a lot of very pure enthusiasts who have all of the new shiny things too. But you see what I'm saying there. There seems to be a divide.
You've done a really good job of separating the two of where I was at, because there's another feeling that is not the feeling you're talking about. Like over the weekend, I drove a lot. Like I drove a lot over the weekend.
Brand new car. We got to get to that.
Yeah.
But you got your brand new Bronco.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it beyond, like I love it so much. But there's another feeling too. The other feeling, and where it is definitely, it can feed the ego part, is the hey, nice car factor. And I think that goes into the 0 to 60, the light to light, all of that egoic things. I'll tell you this, I love that Bronco, and I drove it a lot. I've got like 450 kilometers on it already. And with Rick passing, I needed to just get away. And sometimes I had music on, sometimes I didn't. I was away from traffic. I went up into the hills and where the farms are, where I'm at.
I said to Nicole 3 different times, I am so grateful that you got that truck arrived right when it did.
Oh, I appreciate
for
that.
you to have that.
But Rick passing tempered the other feeling. It tempered that, okay, this is just a truck. You don't love it too much. You don't love it the way that you don't get egoic about it. Enjoy the drive, enjoy these things, and use that as therapy. And I appreciate you kind of distinguishing the two, because I had a clear awareness and realization that it was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that my priorities are in line right now, because I do love this thing. It's an item and I love it. But I don't love it more than I love the most important things in life. Like I love you two. I love, my family, my friend, like, and all that. And that was actually made right in front of me, an awareness that I just appreciate very, very much.
It's weird how the universe will do that. How the universe will very often give you a great equalizer with whatever is going on. Like, I hate to just bounce back with a similar story, but this one's really quick. The day the desk and chairs arrived here, we're so excited about it. We're doing this desk and chairs, following this Pants Across America tour type of thing. Carol Leifer's here. It's like it's exciting, right? And it's like just a big day. And the moving truck shows up outside. Whatever, the shipping truck shows up outside. The moving truck.
Yeah.
The U-Haul shows up outside. Whatever, the shipping thing shows up, and the guy gets the stuff out, and we just can't believe it. And we get inside, and I get a text from the owner, current and someday former owner of Newcomb's Ranch, saying, "Holy shit, Jay, is David okay?" And our buddy David, Guards Rad, the one who makes all the Good Vibes stuff, dual shift, he had rolled his 911 down the crest that same right when we were taking delivery of the stuff. And it was crazy because we had just been up at Breakfast Club. He said he wasn't coming. This guy sent me a message. I was like, no, that can't be him. Then I zoomed in on the picture, and all the stickers were right on the windows. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then we went into this turned out he was fine. Everything was fine. But there was a moment there where it was exactly sort of like, oh, best day ever, worst day ever. What's going on? And it sort of put everything in perspective of like, just stuff. Thank God your friend's okay. This is just stuff.
Exactly. Like,
I'm sorry to say the
I
exact
found
same
out
thing you did over again.
No,
I should have just said, I know
God,
what
I
you
was
mean.
bouncing off of you talking about the MS thing. Like this is where I think it's so important. Like someone said, I read in a personal development book once, nothing is as good as it seems. Nothing is as bad as it seems. And talking about keeping your temperament in a realistic place. And for people who are dreamers, I think that it is, I think don't get me wrong. I think it's important to really think about what you want and what your heart's desire is. But at the end of the day, it's also really important to have that, that realization of what is important at all times, even when you're striving, even when you're creating, even when you're doing these things. I think it's just, that was just given to me over the weekend. Very, very much so. And you talking about like Nicole with MS, it's not a blessing. Of course it's not a blessing, but it is a teaching tool. And perspective is a beautiful thing especially when it's applied.
I mean, I say that and it sounds all prolific and everything, but the truth is, I mean, that's us just trying to make sense of it. Like none of this makes sense anymore. It's gotten so bad that we're getting pissed. Like even us are we're over it. We're both like over it. And it sucks. It sucks. It's so not fun.
Yeah.
Like you should have seen her last night. Total trooper. We went out last night to do this Motor Trend thing. And an evening thing these days is like, I mean, we haven't done a night thing in ages. I think Will's birthday or whatever. Will had a party at his house a while ago. By the way, Will on camera 1 now. I am sorry we missed the Sunday thing. I thought it was next week. I screwed it up. And then it turns out whatever. It doesn't matter. I thought another thing we did miss is next week. I switch swapped them, flim-flammed them. What do you do that? It's not a flim-flam. Whatever that is.
It is now.
I don't know. I just we're both exhausted, and I'm complaining. Like I'm complaining. I got nothing to complain. She is the one who should be complaining, and I don't know. It just I don't want to make it all about that. It is rough lately. Rough pants. Rough. Trebek. Rough.
The Bible refers to marriage as yoking, like two
I'm just
oxen
yoking.
are yoked together.
Oh.
And so and there's if you're yoked together, it's not that you're complaining, but you do have every right to be just as, because your yoke mate, the person that you're partnered with, is going through this, so you're going through it too. And that's you got nothing to I appreciate where you're coming from, but there's not one person out there worth any lick of quality that doesn't think that you absolutely 100% have something to complain about, just like she does. It's just a different complaint.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You guys don't see us behind the scenes. You don't see when we're both not cool with each other. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we try to put on as good a front as we can. Actually, it's not a front. We try to put on, as good an output as we can. And just, it is so, it's so hard. So hard now.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how much energy everything takes. I said this the other day on the show, but it used to be 2 people. And she was always like 1.5 people, the way her output and the way she would, go and her energy and everything. So it was like 2.5 people pulling for 2 people. And now it's like, I'm one guy with a bum shoulder. And I'm going to move shit around. It doesn't make any sense. And she's not the type to, I just don't see her living in a wheelchair and I don't see it. And that's like, well, then where do we go from here? Because we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And every single day we come up with a new idea for something to do, but yet one other thing is stripped away. It's like, oh, well, we can't get to that because that was based on what we could do yesterday, but now we can't do. Like, this is my frustration. Imagine her internal battle.
Yep.
This is just me, just like looking at it from an outside perspective, going like, how do we engineer this to work? Yep. She's like, how do we engineer this to work? Like inside.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is.
You're fucked if you do and fucked. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry for my language.
Did you two watch the Oscars?
No, I think she kind of watched the clips as they were happening. We
Yeah.
cut the cable, and I think that was the word. I tried to find it on YouTube or something to send her a link, and they had that thing locked up pretty tight. You had to have cable to
I
watch
think
that shit.
Yeah, that's one of the events that it is really really difficult. To
Yeah, I
see
don't agree with that. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot there. Even NFL and all the freaking NFL, the goddamn Super Bowl was on other places. Or you could stream
Yep.
it for free on NFL app or something like that. So I was like, you
Yep.
get yourself an Oscars app, right?
Totally.
Don't we start there? We just start with an Oscars app? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah,
Whatever.
could not agree more. Kimmel was good. I thought
Good.
Kimmel was really good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay, so we did the weekend. Sunday was lovely. It's just lovely over there at the cafe, even though... oh, no, there was no rain this week. That was the one day it didn't rain. It was the one day it was nice weather, I think. And then the Motor Trend thing last night. Motor Trend was great. So let me tell you about this. It's Super Turbo Storytime. It's a new show that premieres tonight. In fact, depending on where you are in the country, you can probably watch it right now or very, very soon, as soon as this show is over. It didn't seem like anybody could describe it. And then when I watched it, it just seemed to me like, oh, it's a conversation like a podcast, but then they put animation over the story so that you get to see the reenactments via animation. And the animation is very funny because the animation, you then have creative right to play with it a little bit. Super, super funny. The one we watched last night was Exhibit, talking about the Gumball 3000 rally, which is very, very entertaining. Highly recommend.
Cool.
Although I don't think that's the first episode. I think the first episode is our friend Hooniverse Jeff, who we saw last night at this thing. It was really great. Anyway, it's worth checking out. I didn't know what to expect because it wasn't really explained to me properly, but it was very entertaining when we all saw the product, and the audience enjoyed it. It was enjoyable. You should watch it.
I got to tell you, I love the title. Super Turbo Storytime sounds to me like a Japanese game show, or when something is translated from English to Japanese and then back into English again. There's a lot of Super Turbo Storytime sounds really delightful to me. I like that.
Is it not a take on something else? Is there not a super fun story time or something else? I was trying to figure that out because it sounds almost familiar to me.
Seinfeld had the Super Fantastic Happy Hour, I believe, where Jerry was part of a show in Japan, and Kramer got all excited about that. I think it was called the Super Fantastic Happy Hour. There's some game shows down there for sure. Like, to me, that's a Japanese. That's the impression I get when I hear it. But no, could be something else.
I'm talking about like a cartoon on Adult Swim or something. Super fun story time. What is Tim and Eric story time? Is there a Tim and Eric story time? Is there a Tim and Eric anything?
Maybe. If not,
you don't know what I'm talking about. You would know what I'm.
I
so
don't.
Then there definitely isn't. If you don't know about it, there isn't one. You'd be a fan of it.
I'm from Canada. There are gaps. There are gaps with Adult Swim up here. They're just so there are some things that I know very well.
Is that true? Because you don't have the same. It's not the same distribution up there.
Yeah, like I remember trading tapes to watch Space Ghost. Space Ghost is one of my favorite things in the world, and I remember
what was that, HBO
here? I think it was on Adult Swim.
I mean, maybe eventually, but Adult Swim didn't happen until, like, in my mind, a few years ago. But Space Coast was like the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
Adult Swim didn't come out until after that. Because Adult Swim was the Cartoon Network rebranded after dark. That's when Adult Swim became.
And we had the Canadian version of the Cartoon Network, but it wasn't the same as yours. And we would piggyback or, license many of the American Cartoon Network shows up here. But no, ours was very different than yours. Our Comedy Channel was very different than Comedy Central as well.
Yes, that's right. You had the Comedy Channel.
Yes.
Is that where Mike Bullard was on the Comedy Channel?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mike Bullard and Tom Green were a 1-2 punch every night. It was pretty
For
fun.
real? That was the pairing? So they would do the real talk show and then the mock talk show?
One or the other in front
Badass.
of I forget which. I feel like Tom Green was first, but yeah.
Oh, well, if it was the other way around, it would feel very old school Letterman, where like you've got your polished Carson type of, really a real talk show. The 11:30. Just shoot me. Just shoot me. I can't. It is the worst. Anyway, the show is fun. It's really good. Yesterday, they did a live reading as well in front of the audience, and it was Paul Scheer, our old friend Paul Scheer, speaking of Adult Swim, and Amelia Hartford, our new car friend. We met her like a year ago when we were both on the Smoking Tire podcast together. And she's got like 1 million followers on Instagram. So when she said, she had agreed that day to do our show. And I sent her a message like the next day or whatever the appropriate thing was. You got to wait 4 days, man. 3 days. Was it in Swingers? You wait 5 days? Anyway, and never heard back. And I thought to myself, well, there's a chance it might have gotten buried, whatever the heck. Anyway, we saw her last night and she was like, oh, you guys, we're supposed to do the thing. She gave me her number. We're going to put that together. Amelia Hartford will be here soon. Awesome. But the funny part of this story was we have not seen Paul Scheer since probably again, my language. I'm so sorry. Apparently when I get more raw in life, it comes out on the show with my language. So I'm going to say 10 years. It's probably been 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And 2013. That was like 13 or 14 was our last Comic-Con with them. We got married in 13, somewhere around there.
Yep.
And, but we used to work together a lot, right? Like for years. But we look totally different. Like I'm not drunk and it's just totally different. Nicole is now in a wheelchair, short hair, totally looks different. So we walked over to him, like kind of little backstage area a little bit. And we're like, well, we'll go over here behind Paul Scheer. And he was sort of reading his notes, and we could kind of tell it was pre-show. He was sort of cramming a little bit, and I was like, hey, man, don't want to bother you, but just wanted to say hello. It's been a long time. And we did not take into consideration that we look different. So we were just walking over as though, hey, you're going to recognize us, no problem. And he went into like, oh, hey, of course, big eyes. And he was broadcasting, keying the mic, you know what I mean? Just straight into, oh, I'm trying to do this thing. I'm trying to get all the TMC and MCT and all the different anagrams right, and all the and he was like, oh, it's so nice to see you. And I saw him do one of these little glance down at my name tag, right? And he bends down to say hello to Nicole, and I was like, you remember Shabbat, right? And he's like, yes, of course. But his eyes were really big, and I could just tell that we were both being handled and that he didn't remember us at all. And we thought it was awkward but also hilarious because it sort of felt cool to be we feel so different, and it was kind of be like, wow, people don't even recognize us anymore. That's crazy. And so then anyway, the show was starting, and then we said, well, we'll talk to him after the show. Show was great. Right. One thing led to another. Didn't get to talk to him after the show. We got mobbed. I'm sure he did too, but we got mobbed by people we knew, and we never got to connect. So I've sent him a couple messages after, and he's like the messages or whatever. We are 90 doesn't sound like enough. 90 sounds too much. We are 90% sure he had no idea who we were. And he was just being very, very polite.
So the moment of realization hasn't clicked in even yet.
For who?
For him.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, if I didn't tell that story well, I don't think he had any idea who we were.
No, in my mind, I'm waiting for when the light bulb moment happens, and it's probably going to happen.
This would be a better story if I had that for you. I was hoping I'd get that at the end when the show was over, and then we went up to go talk to him, but then we got separated. Different mobs separated us.
I'm anticipating the light bulb moment. It's going to happen at 2 a.m.
Here's the thing. I have been debating since last night whether or not to we were. I don't mean this was an ancillary relationship. I have all of his information in my phone. I've been totally we're going back and forth. Like, should I send him a text? Is it weird? Because I don't want him to be like, oh yeah, of course that was you. I just kind of think it's funny now, and I kind of want to poke the bear. Yeah. The Letterman influence of me is kind of like, well, I want to see how far we can take this.
That's yeah. I could totally see the temptation to do that.
But meanwhile, it's not like, oh, I want to go hang out with Paul Scheer.
Right. Yes.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. Our life is just so funny now because last night was the baboosh of new life, old life, because we've got we've got our old life, which literally doesn't even recognize us anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
I would argue, this is nothing against Paul Scheer, who is a very talented person. I think he's very funny. But I would argue that Nicole's work for Children's Hospital is what got, meaning making it, the show was excellent, the writing was excellent, the cast was excellent, all of the pieces were great. None of that matters if the right eyeballs don't see your shit, and Nicole was an expert at getting the right eyeballs to see people's shit. That's how she got a little show that nobody had heard of that was on the internet to win 2 Emmys in a row. Again, the show did it. The show was worth it. It was good enough. But it doesn't happen without the greased wheels. So why the hell was I saying that? So I would argue that his show that followed it, that NTSF, SUV, SVU, whatever the hell it was, remember there was another one of those that went a couple seasons? That show probably wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Nicole.
Oh, man, that's...
She used to work with the whole production company that put them all together. It wasn't just Rob Corddry. She worked with the whole group.
Right. I find it funny too.
Oh, and then the new side of the sorry, I went all off on how he didn't read it. But then there's the car side of everything where like people recognized him kind of sort of as being a celebrity and stuff, but they didn't really know him or he couldn't talk. You'd have to know comedy to have a conversation with him, right? Because he was reading notes to do the car stuff.
Yep.
And everyone here is car people. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at the Motoring Club. By the way, shout out to the Motoring Club hosting the event. Super great. Super great. The new location is so great. Join a member. Become a member. I think there's a waiting list now. God damn it. Anyway, if you can get in there, it's really, really good. Go to the Motoring Coffee, though. You can at least see what the joint is.
Did you see any cars that surprised you? This is a question I've wanted to ask you for a long time. When was the last time you were kind of surprised by a vehicle?
Bryson Wallace, Adult Swim, 2001 is when it launched.
There you go.
Very nice.
Cool.
Thank you. And was I correct about that? It was always I believe they shared a number on the dial, that we used to call it in the old days. I believe it was Cartoon Network, and then at a certain time, it just switched over, programming-wise. I think Fox was like that in the beginning, too. I don't think Fox had their own channels. If I recall, they took over... When Fox became a network, they kind of took over local affiliates for a certain amount of hours each week.
Totally.
Like the primetime hours or something like that. Is that right? Do you remember that?
Well, up here, I can't speak for the States. I can speak for Canada, where a lot of Fox stuff was basically like Arsenio Hall. Like certain channels
Syndicated.
would carry Arsenio Hall, certain would have The Simpsons, certain ones would have Married with Children. There was no Fox up here for a long time, but there were lots of local stations that would carry Fox programming, sometimes even instead of network stuff. I think it was definitely like that.
It's funny how everything is. Last night was it was cars and comedy. It was a weird, because this was a new Motor Trend show, so they're doing car content and they're making it. Yeah, everyone sees how things are shifting. It's wild.
Yeah. Well, you guys do. How long have you been trying to meld these worlds together with this show? 5 years now.
We haven't been trying to do it. We've been accidentally doing it.
Sure. Oh, yeah. God, even better.
Because it started as Life with the Ryans, where we couldn't figure out what to talk about, so we talked about cars, comedy, and life, right? And then we would change the name of the show throughout, but it's always kind of just been cars, comedy, and our life.
Totally.
But it was never intentional. It was never intentional.
Yeah.
But I think also that there's what we always found was, and then it's true if you ask these guys and you talk to them, like Reggie or Tom Segura or anything, Bert Kreischer, it seems that to be good at comedy, you have to have a very technical, analytical, almost an engineering type of brain, so that you can both deconstruct things, reconstruct them, take them apart a bunch of times, put them back together differently. You have to sort of have that Tetris-y kind of a brain.
Yeah.
And auto stuff is kind of exactly the same. I mean, it's maybe less these days. It's becoming ones and zeros, but in the old days, especially the older stuff, it's all technical. There's so many moving pieces to make it right, and you have to get them all right to make it right.
Yes.
And it seems that there are just a lot of parallels between like racing and comedy for sure. Because it's, anybody could do it, but to be good at it, either one is hard, and you got to work at it. Anybody can do either one. Anybody. I guess with most things, anybody can do it. But like to be good, you've got to crank at it. You got to grind. You have to do this. You have to go for 5 years without giving a shit what anybody thinks about the product, because eventually it'll get better.
Yes.
Even though you're drowning in the meantime. This sucks. You hate everything you're putting out. I still feel that way, by the way. I still hate everything we're putting out. One day it'll be a good show. I promise.
Can I go back to the mindset of comedy and cars for a second? Have you ever heard of a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Repair?
I don't know. Sounds familiar.
Fantastic book. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. But in the book,
losing yourself in the process, I assume.
Well, somewhat. It's actually, it talks about two very distinct personality types. It's about two friends who go across on a motorcycle journey across America. And there's two distinct personality types. The type you're talking, and both are valid. It's not one is better than the other. It's just the way that two people think. One of them has his BMW motorcycle and has zero ability to repair it himself. But the feeling that you're talking about, the passion, all of that drives him. And he's just as happy to hire somebody to fix it or to do the things for it. But the passion for it is up here. And then there's his buddy who's the exact opposite, who loves the love of it is the exact same, but the expression of the love is very different. He can take the whole thing apart and put it back together again and all that. And the book basically is a metaphor for life and is a phenomenal example of the different personality types and how they can be. I would submit, like you talk about Segura, let's talk about kind of his best friend, Bert Kreischer, who, might not be the tinkerer or the engineer that Tom is, but is all about the feeling, and the feeling fuels that passion. And both can work in comedy. I see it being both ways. I see some people being completely that way, the tinkerer, and some people being just passion gets them over.
I don't mean physical tinker either. I mean tinker with the way that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. No. I was using that as a metaphor, even that, like as a. But I feel like. If
by tinker you mean manipulate their driving patterns to get the most out of their result.
Well, just that engineering mentality, like I'm not a wrench as you put. I love that term. I learned that term here. I'm not.
But you're misusing it. I'm not talking about wrenching.
Gotcha.
That's my point. I'm not talking about wrenching. I don't know how we got into Tom Segura turns a wrench. My point is these guys are willing to work on getting better because they like this driving experience. They like when it feels good. When you get it good, it feels good, and it's not easy. So it's like this new chase. I hate to say this, but like some people do big game hunting. That's not for me. But like there's that crazy chase of doing something that's really hard and then achieving your goal. I think it's a thing that is common among many successful people. It's like, well, I've done this. What else can I conquer in this lifetime?
Yes.
Being willing to be bad for a long time until you get good. Just because like you felt that little bit of good and you know what that's like. You're chasing that constantly ever since.
Yep.
It's like a drug. It's just like any other drug. So for them, maybe it was their first laugh. Maybe it's their first lap. It's just connected.
You feel that way about this?
Define this. What
you're doing? Like for me, I'll say it to me, and then I'll see if there's a mirror for you. I remember the first time I did a podcast, and I was awful, god awful, and some would say I still am god awful, but I just got this joy that I had never experienced before, and it was raw and pure, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I got to chase this.
Right. I certainly know what you're talking about. I know that feeling, but no, I got that when I was a kid doing it for the first time in my like. I know you paint the parallel between us a lot, but like, please remember that I've been wherever you are. I was there when I was a kid. This is such a longer story for me. Like, I think I probably did feel what you're talking about when I was in high school and I had the first show where the weatherman from the local actual TV station came, and I'm talking to Dr. Mel Goldstein that everybody like. Usually we're watching him to make sure school's closed, you know? And I remember my dad being so proud that night. You remember the story is I skipped school that day, but I still went to school that day. And I called in sick, took the bus to school, then worked in the production studio all day long. Got in so much trouble, so much trouble for skipping school. My dad picked me up after the tape. But when he saw the tape, which I brought home a copy to make sure, when he saw the tape, it was like one of the two proudest moments he had ever been of me in my life. So I feel like that was the beginning of that feeling. And then you all know what I did to take myself away from that. As far as when we started the podcast, again, here I am sitting at this whole thing that I created, whatever, and in my show, whatever. Remember, this was supposed to be Nicole's show. We started the podcast because it was supposed to be a thing for her at first. And little by little, we weren't sure where to go with it for her. You know what I mean? We all have hurdles and growing pains and whatever. It wasn't the right time. The Letterman of it all started coming out for me because of what we were doing. It reinvigorated all that. I feel like it's not the same, though. I feel like it can't be the same as what you're talking about. It must. I probably... Like, whatever, my thing is totally unique because, like, anybody else would have followed their dreams sooner. Like, why is there this big gap? I'm like one of those parents who had one kid and then there's 20 years. And then they have another kid and they're like, oh, we're starting over again. That's me and my story. And it's up here, too. Like, I told, we had some guests the other day that I was talking to them quite a bit about this time in that period of my life, the 90s. And I was very open about the fact that, like, the moment we started doing this, I regressed. The moment it all happened and I told the microphone story, I became 18 again. It was like, that's when I should have done it. I righted the timeline, the Back to the Future, this skewed into this alternate tangent.
Yeah.
Somehow, confessing it into the universe sort of like unlocked some shit, right? And it's... It was almost like that. I don't know. I don't want to bestow any of this stuff, any kind of special powers, but I definitely regressed back. And it seems like, well, that was like 3 or 4 years ago. So now I'm probably like 22 or whatever, in the scheme of regression. And that's kind of how I feel in all of this. I'm doing the same shit I did way back when. If anything, it's all a do-over. It's like I've seen this episode of Jeopardy and I have all of the answers. And everyone else has seen it for the first time, so I seem like I'm really smart. It's like Groundhog Day, when they're like, whoa, Phil Connors is brilliant. It's like that. It's like that. So I whatever. And by what I do share is I'm not good at that. I didn't think it was good at the beginning. But here's where I will say, this is one thing I'm sure of myself. Because of my constant want to get better and my willingness to improve, my willingness to throw old bits of me away, sacrifice to learn and be better in the future, I do know that the moment, whatever this is, be it me and Nicole, be it just me, be it me and you, be it whatever this is, or a version of it in the future, we'll be fine once I have a producer. Because, broadcasting, no problem. Put me on the radio. You just need somebody to fill the air and cue commercials and do donut spots and play a record. Like, I could do that. I literally went to school for that. I never wanted to do that, but I could do that right now. Not that the radio DJ is the job of the future anymore. It's all programmed. But I feel like
Yeah.
if somebody plugged this into a real thing now, and there was a producer saying like, okay, this is what the show's going to be today, and I need you to do this, like, I think all of a sudden other people will see what we've been going for the whole time, that we've literally just been learning the craft. And it doesn't, all of this to say, feel like we're learning the craft. All this to say, I don't like myself any better now than episode 1. Even though I appreciate my own growth.
You don't think hold on. Because I mean, I've watched episode 1. I've watched the first few episodes. You're telling me that you don't think that you're better at this than you were then?
No, I didn't say that.
Or you don't like yourself any better?
There it is.
Okay. I got you. Okay. Yeah, those are two very different things. And I just wanted to have the distinction of that because, yeah. Okay. I don't think that.
I'm too old to blame my mother still, but you know, I mean, there's definitely some kind of issue in there.
Yeah.
I love what you're putting out. Oh, Irene Hoffman, you're the best. You are the best. You are the best. Hey, you know what? Speaking of, that's a great opportunity to tell you that. Let's do this. Here we go. The Hello Deli is your only source for officially licensed Late Show with David Letterman merchandise. Get yourself some officially licensed David Letterman merchandise from hello-deli.com. Say hello to Rupert. Say hello for Nicole, because she's not here to do it herself. And they got hats, they got shirts, they got mugs. And then you can get Rupert stuff there, too. It's not just the Late Show stuff. You can get Rupert stuff. And then this is what I'm not sure about, but I think if you're a fan of the new Colbert show, he's got that stuff in there, too?
He does have some Colbert stuff on site, so, for sure.
Yeah. Which is, I think, smart. You don't want to have only dated stuff. Makes people think your meat might not be fresh. I think it's pretty smart. Also, the current tenant, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Ed Sullivan, well, either way, it's the Hello Deli must either be in the theater building or the office building, because he's right at the part where they connect.
Yeah, I would say
I'm
the
sure
office building is above him.
Okay. Point being, I think that they would be his landlords, right? Or CBS or whoever owns the block.
Yeah, that's right. I believe that's how it. I believe that's how it works.
Really smart move to sell the current guy's swag. Has Rupert ever done? Rupert. You know, the Colbert Show has made such an effort to not be anything like the old Letterman show. Have they ever had Rupert on or done anything like that with Rupert?
They have, and so he's been on. A couple of weeks ago, they actually asked him to do something, but he was busy at the time, so he had to say no. He said no to it. But so they, as recent as a few weeks ago, they have offered.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, me too.
For him, just it's good to be wanted.
Definitely, and like they became a landmark unto themselves. The city of New York had a proclamation last year about the Hello Deli and appreciating officially their 30 years of service in the area as well.
30 years, damn, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So did he move in right before Dave?
Yeah, he moved in 91, I believe.
Ooh, it was not 91. A great neighborhood.
Yeah, the timing of it is crazy.
I mean, that's right when it was promised to be a good neighborhood, because I feel like it was 1990, I believe, is when. Oh no, maybe that's when Dinkins came in. It was still Dinkins back then, I think. I think Dinkins was inaugurated in 90, and then Giuliani came in after Letterman moved. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, man, it wasn't even promised to be good yet, but Letterman came in and then changed it. But they didn't know that was going to happen in 91.
He's been on one episode of our show, and he talks a lot about that story. Like he got that shop, and I mean, this is public knowledge. He got that shop for $30,000, and he was a businessman. He always wanted to have a sandwich shop, and so he had a business plan to make a run of it in its current, the way it currently was. with the Ed Sullivan Theater being old and decrepit and barely used ever, he had a business plan to make a run of it. And then suddenly the circus came to town and everything changed forever.
Yeah, it would have been, he would have done good business even if Dave didn't put him on the air just because of the location and how Dave became a magnet to 53rd and Broadway. But the fact that he threw him on the air, and then Rupert was such a nice guy and so funny on the air, and that he was always there. He was always there, man, in the register. And, he became an institution.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, it's cool.
On the show, he talked about how during just the retrofit of the theater, so however long they had, 3 months or whatever it was to rebuild the theater, the construction workers gave him a boom like he had never seen just from that.
Coffee and sandwiches.
Yeah. And
Irene confirmed CBS is the landlord. The offices are right above him.
Yeah, there you go.
Love you, Irene.
So,
Fact
lots
checker.
of love to Rupert right now.
Fact checker. Lots of love to Rupert. Always, yes, for sure. All right. Let's see. All right. There was some East Coast feeds. I can't believe we talked through it all. I feel like I overshared a lot tonight.
No.
Lot going on. It's hard to keep it all up in your head.
Yeah.
East Coast feeds, I was going to do some, but I feel like maybe we'll do it Thursday. Thursday, Lindsay, I can't, it's hilarious because I wrote this down and I can't remember. I think we have a guest Thursday, can't remember. One way or another, Lindsay Jensch, who is not Steve Ellis's mother, but there was some confusion. She is going to be here to either audit the show, or maybe if we don't have a guest, we'll just put her in the chair. But she'll be here on Thursday. And Luft 9 is happening up in San Francisco at the end of April. We're going to do a GVBC up there as well. Our friends Gen and Chris are putting that together. I will just drive up, show up, do a drive, have some breakfast. That'll be fun. Let's see. I think April 15th is still the day for the Motoring Club. We're going to do it's the 5th anniversary for this show. We're going to do a live taping. We're going to do a fundraiser for the Autoimmunity Foundation and just a big blowout party at the Motoring Company. So save the date on that. I don't know if it's tickets or if it's just open. I don't know how it works, but we'll let you know as soon as we have the details from the Motoring Club. The Motoring Club is awesome. It always has been awesome, but going to the event last night in their new space and seeing how well it was utilized was very, very cool. Looking forward to doing stuff there. And we'll be doing it differently, but still, it'll be fun. We know you have many options for your viewing entertainment. Thank you for choosing the Cars and Comedy show in the Late Night Playset. Late Night Playset is brought to you by the Autoimmunity Foundation. AIF is supported by viewers like you. Please consider a donation, or if you just want to learn more, go to autoimmunityfoundation.org. Autoimmunityfoundation.org. Mike?
Autoimmunityfoundation.org.
Thank you.
And I have a question for you. Is the GoFundMe still active?
Yes, absolutely. Although I need to do the update. I was going to get to it today, and I didn't. Tomorrow,
sure.
I will do the update with Dom's information, because Dom from Dom's Garage has done the pledge drive. I don't know what you would call it, but from now to the end of the month, whoever donates the most gets a full driver's detail package, driver's protection package, the GVBC package, whatever he does for yellow car. It's really, really good. It's like an $800 value, so it's a really good gift, or prize.
God, I love that guy's energy. That was a great guy. Watch the Dom show, show from the other day, everybody. It was a really, really cool dude.
He is a great guy. Thanks for saying that. I totally agree. And then also, it was like any donation, I think you get 15% off. Something 15%
like that. Off. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't make $5 to the GoFundMe, you get 15% off.
So it's huge. It's awesome. It's great. We appreciate it. Letterman podcast, buddy. You're doing a Shecky show.
Yeah. So last Friday's was everyone's talking about that, and I shot the intro knowing that Shecky was maybe not coming out, and I talked about it. And so this week's is a different episode. We've got good things coming up, back to kind of normal-ish. This week is an hour and 20 minutes of me pouring my heart out about Shecky. I hope to have another show where maybe some people who love Shecky talk about some stories and things like that. But this week's was, I'll flat out say it. It was therapy for me. And
Yeah.
I debated whether I should release it or not. And I had a couple people close to him say, no, throw it out there. So that's the decision's made. I'm going to do it. But this week's a special tribute to Shecky. Me just talking about my friend Rick.
Friday morning, sometime 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's 6 a.m. Western time, 9 a.m. Eastern time is
9 a.m. Eastern.
when we drop. And yeah, you betcha.
Also, shout out to Lean Customs. You guys are very cool. I followed your. This isn't going to work. Let's see. We'll get this to work. We'll make it work. Here we go. Whoa! This is one of their cars, but he makes these pins. We've got a bunch of the pins on the wall here in the studio. And met him for the first time the other day with Sean Lee at Santa Clarita, and he gave me one of these. This actual car was there as well. But I hope to potentially be doing something with them in the future as well, because they do these really, really awesome pins that are like super detailed. And I didn't really get it at first because like I just kind of, again, sometimes when things are explained to me, I don't get them. But then when I see them, I'm a visual learner and that kind of thing. You just see how friggin' cool it is. So I just kind of wanted to shout out Lean Customs and then also say that hopefully at some point we might do something with them. That'd be really cool. But thanks for the pin. Thanks for the pin. Super thanks for the pin. Super turbo thanks for the pin.
God, the collabs.
Story time with Tim and Eric?
I don't know, man. I'm on the show right now. Otherwise, I'd be Googling that stuff. But
No. I appreciate it. With Tim and I think I'm making it up. I don't know what the hell's the matter with me. Also, whatever I just typed in, it all went away because I don't know how to use a phone anymore. Oh, nope. I really don't. Love you, Jay, Nicole, and Mike. Aw, we love you.
I know, so much
You guys
love.
are the best. That's what this thing is. On these shows where it turns into there's no show, it just becomes a damn therapy session. It's very, very embarrassing.
Well, I'm just going to say this autobiographically. I am so, and me too, because me too. I'm so fucking grateful for tonight. Like, you have no idea. I've had a lot of feelings inside, and yeah, no, it's beautiful. The kinship is just, I needed this. So thank you for making the show the way you did and allowing me to be a part of it.
That's where I that's where even Steven, that's where I go. The universe works out and figures things out. We wouldn't have had much time to talk tonight at all had the show gone how the blue card said it would. Then I got the call that they wouldn't be able to do the show. It wasn't even. It was a text message from somebody else's number because they had to get. It was like they carrier pigeoned out to somebody and then had a different number send this text to me. It was very strange how they got me the information, but whatever. That they didn't have any power or phones. It all just happened very last minute, and whatever. I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for the loss to the Worldwide Pants community. I know that Shecky was. Everyone says he's one of the good ones. Yeah, but I also know that he was one of the ties that bound you all together. He was one of those. He was part of the glue, and that was apparent. That was apparent. We could feel that on the outside, and I can't remember if I ever met Shecky when I was there, when I spent a few weeks at the Late Show. When I spent my time at the Late Show, I can't remember if I ever met him or not, and that tells me that I probably didn't.
Okay, well, I got goosebumps because one, and I didn't say this in the episode today. It was one of the things I was maybe going to say, but I'm glad I get to say it here. Rick's compliment for somebody is, "Oh, he's one of the good guys." And I was going through all my correspondence with him. I was going to shoot it yesterday, and it turns out I just spent all my time going through the correspondence. There was a lot of it, and he actually said that about you. I early on in my talks with him, I said, well, there's Jay Ryan, the microphone guy. And he said, yeah, he's a good guy. So I don't know if that was because he followed, like he knew my story when I put it out there originally. I know he follows a lot of stuff and he knew who you were and he told me you're a good guy. and he referred to Scott Ryan that way as well. He referred to a whole pile of people. So I actually
Well,
have
don't saturate the
where he
compliment,
actually
please.
called me-
Seriously.
I know. God damn it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway,
but
so I don't know if you met him or not.
that moves me. I did not realize that we had a personal connection of, I know this is the problem with television, right? It's one-sided. You know the people inside the box. They very rarely know you. We have a weird, unique life where a lot of times they do actually know us just because of our previous life. I didn't think I'd ever gotten to Shecky in this lifetime. So if he did know who we were and liked what we were up to, then strangely I'm getting a little emotional now, and it means a great deal. So thanks, and R.I.P. to Shecky.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the not a show, right? Can't imagine saying anything else after that. Oh, I'll think of something. Thank you to everybody for being here for sure. These weird ones are weird. They really are. Oh, wait, hang on. These are from last night. Sitting on Nicole's chair. We were going to open these. Let's see what was in the thing from Super Turbo Story Time. Got a metal thing there. And more stuff here. All right. Oh, look at this. Thank you for joining us to celebrate the launch of Motor Trend's Super Turbo Story Time. Tuesdays at 10. There you go. Tuesdays at 10. So you can tune in just a few minutes. All right? Is that no 5:30?
That'd be 10 Eastern, I assume.
Yeah, hour and a half, right?
Hour and a half. No, half hour if it's Eastern.
It is a half hour, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we sprung ahead.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. Oh, gosh. That explains it. We
Damn.
didn't change the studio clock.
Yeah, we've been doing this 90 minutes, my friend.
I don't know what this is. I mean, it looks like a thing for headlines. This week on Headlines. Crayons. Crayons in a candy lab? Well, I appreciate the effort here. Way to go, Motor Trend. Oh, I see. What is this? I don't know what this is. Is this anything? Why is it called Candy Lab? This does not appear edible, but it's a neat little toy. Candy by Candy Lab Toys. Part wooden toy, part die-cast. This is a novel kind of toy car. Tiny, but hugely inventive. Okay, thank you, Candy Car. All right, well, look at that. Nice little tie-in with Candy Car. Wow, that is lovely. And the good news is we have two of them. So if anybody else wants everything that you just saw me unpack here, I would love to give this to somebody at GVBC on Friday. Where will we be? I don't know. I don't know where we'll be. I have a feeling we'll probably be at Haggerty Garage and Social again at Van Nuys, the same place we were last week, because we kind of got rained out. We didn't really get like a good feel for it. And they offered. That's what it comes down to. We'll go wherever we're wanted. But thank you for being here. Let's see. Follow the Letterman podcast. That's that guy. Follow, you can follow Jay Ryan. You can follow Porsche Life 111. You can follow this show, Cars and Comedy Show. There's all sorts of stuff you can follow. New Life of Old Nicole, if you want to. Keep looking at the other camera. Find your red light. New Life of Old Nicole. And Autoimmunity Foundation, of course. Check out autoimmunityfoundation.org. I think that's it. So Lindsay Genshin may be somebody else on Thursday. That's it. Right? Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for being here on the Instagram. Thanks for the love. Some very nice comments here before. I appreciate it. We didn't get to them on the show, but I love
Much
them.
love, buddy.
Have a great night. See you out there. Thursday.